Lesson 6.4, make more comparative inferences about populations. In this lesson, we're going to focus on using the data to compare populations using mean, median, mode, range, interquartile range, and mean absolute deviation. Now, the first terms you should know. These are terms that come from previous grade levels: mean, median, mode, and range. You also should have learned about interquartile range both in previous lessons this year as well as last year. The one term that you may not be quite as familiar with is what's called the mean absolute deviation. That's this term right there, okay? So we will focus a little bit more on that in this topic, lesson 6.4. Example 1, use dot plots to compare populations. Quinn collects data from a random sample of 20 7th grade students who participate in a youth fitness program. She compares the number of curl-ups each student completed in 30 seconds last year and this year. What can Quinn infer from her comparison of the data set? So looking at that data set, you see 20 pieces of data. Last year is the green row that's on top, and this year is the blue row on the bottom. So each of those numbers is a number of curl-ups that a student completed. And since you have 20 pieces of data, that represents the 20 students who were in that sample. Step 1 is to display the two data sets in dot plots. We're going to start with the curl-ups completed last year. That's your first dot plot you see there. And you should see 20 dots, 1 dot for each piece of data from the table. The second dot plot shows us the curl-ups completed this year. Again, you should see 20 dots total, 1 dot for each piece of data from the table. In step 2, we're going to use the dot plots to compare the two data sets. By drawing a line to show the shape of the data, it gives us a better picture of how those two data sets compare. We also can use our measures of center, such as mode and range, in order to determine how those sets compare as well. In this case, the number of curl-ups completed this year is generally greater than last year. But based on the shape of the data, not all students made the same progress. So you can see that some of those dots on the curl-ups completed this year, okay, right down here, are in about the same position as many of the dots from the previous year. However, by seeing more dots here where there weren't any from the previous year, okay, shows us that a good number of students did move from that lower end to the upper end, so there was improvement. Okay. Quinn can infer that most of her classmates were able to do more curl-ups this year, and the key word here is most of her classmates. Now let's take a look at the try it. Quinn also collects data about push-ups. Does it appear that students generally did more push-ups last year or this year? Explain your reasoning. So looking at the two dot plots that you have there, it might be a good idea to go ahead and draw a line that shows how those data sets compare and to see the shape of the data sets. And by looking at the shape of those data sets, you can definitely make some conclusions. Okay? First of all, from last year, the mode is 4. Remember, that's the data value that occurs the most often. For this year, there are 2 modes, 7 and 8. Okay, so 7 and 8 push-ups showed up most frequently there, and 4 push-ups from the previous year. We can also look at the range of the data. For push-ups completed last year, the range of the data is 10 take away 1, or 9. And this year, the range of the data is 12 take away 3, which is also 9. So the range is probably not going to be a good tool for us to use as a comparison purposes because the range is the same for both years. But by looking at the modes and looking at the shape of the data, we should be able to conclude, or Quinn can conclude, that students generally did more push-ups this year than last year. Now let's take a look at example 2. Use measures of center and variability to compare populations. Quinn computes the mean and mean absolute deviation, or MAD, for each data set. How do these measures support Quinn's inference from the data displays? So taking a look here at the information here, remember that the mean is also called the average. And the average is what you get when you add all the data values and you divide by the number of data values in the set. So you divide by the number of pieces of data. In the case of these two data sets, the mean can be used to describe the data because the data sets do not have outliers. Remember, outliers are pieces of data that are away from the rest of the group. By comparing the means for each data set, Quinn can conclude that the mean number of curl-ups completed this year is greater than the mean number of curl-ups completed last year. This supports Quinn's inference. Now, the mean absolute deviation is something a little bit different. Okay, that's this piece in your table right here in red. The mean absolute deviation, in case you don't know what that is or have not heard of it, is another way of calculating a distance in a data set. It's kind of similar to when we talked about the interquartile range, where we looked at how big was the box on the box plot. Okay, what was the difference between that first and third quartiles? But the mean absolute deviation, or MAD, is actually what we get when we calculate the distance of each of those dots away from the mean of the entire data set. So first thing that we have to do is find the mean of the data set. Okay, in the case of the curl-ups completed last year, the mean was 23 6/10. Okay. And then the mean absolute deviation says how far are each of those dots away from the 23 6/10. And then we find the average of those numbers. So for example, the data value here at 20, this one right here, is 3 6/10 away from the mean. 21 is 2 6/10 away from the mean. And there are two of those dots. And 23, there are 4 dots on that one right here, okay? And each of them is 6/10 away from that average, that mean of 23 6/10. Then we got to the 24. There are 5 dots there, and those 5 dots are each 4/10 away from that 23 6/10. Remember, you're finding the difference between them, so you're subtracting those values. 25, there are 3 dots. Each one of them is 1 4/10 away from the mean. 26, there are 2 dots. Okay, those are 2 4/10 away from the mean. And 27 is 3 4/10 away from the mean. Now, if you add all these numbers up and then divide, so we're going to add and then divide by 20, because there are 20 numbers in that data set, we should get an average of 1 4/10. That tells us how close together those data values are. Okay, the smaller the mean absolute deviation, the closer all of those values are to the average of the entire data set. Now, the same thing can be true of curl-ups completed this year, but notice how much more spread out these data values are. We see that they are greater than the data values from the previous year, okay? But look at how much more spread out they are compared to last year. And because they're more spread out, the mean absolute deviation, or MAD value, is 2 1/10, which means these values in general are farther away from that average than the curl-ups completed from last year. So the mean absolute deviation is greater for the number of curl-ups completed this year, and this suggests that not all students made that same progress. Example 3 has us looking at information and making some predictions. Rafi, one of Quinn's classmates, reported the numbers of curl-ups he completed this year and last year. He did not tell Quinn which number is for which year. Based on the data that Quinn gathered, which number most likely represents the curl-ups he completed last year? Well, based on the data from example 2, which do you suppose is last year's number? Well, Quinn inferred that most students could complete more curl-ups this year than last year. So Rafi most likely completed 19 curl-ups last year and 23 curl-ups this year. Now I want you to try it at the bottom of the page. Come back and check your answer when you're ready. One sample answer that you might have come up with is to compare the means, or averages. And in this case, teens exercise almost twice as much as adults. So when I look at these values here, adults exercise an average of 4 4/10 hours, okay, each week. If I double that, that would be 8 8/10 hours. Teens, on the other hand, already exercise 7 9/10 hours each week on average. Okay, so there's the adults and there are the teens. So it appears that teens are almost twice as much exercise each week as adults. Not quite, but almost.